One of our guests during Consensus was a member of the Stellar Development Foundation, which is making a $15 million investment in AirTM, which is a digital wallet and peer-to-peer exchange platform based in Mexico. It's the Stellar Foundation's biggest investment to date and aims to improve financial services across Latin America. And joining us now to discuss is Stellar Development Foundation CEO and Executive Director Denelle Dixon. Welcome, Denelle, to the show, and thank you so much for joining us during Consensus. What a week. Now, you're working with developing nations, but I wonder what's the particular opportunity you see here with AirTM in Latin America?
Thank you for having me. With respect to Latin America, even despite its size and its population, only 5% of all global cross-border transactions come through Latin America. And that's primarily because in countries like Mexico, 91% of the transactions are in cash still. So with AirTM, you can see the opportunity to be able to leverage that wallet and then connect it with the Stellar network to have it really be that global platform to rely on the anchors in Stellar and to be able to offer that on and off ramp for everyone with respect to crypto and with respect to stable coins, to hedge against hyperinflation, to be able to get access to the banking system. It's really exciting, and they're really deeply connected to the mission of SDS as well, so it's really nice to have that.
Yeah, during Consensus, you also brought up the need for global collaboration. Does blockchain really have the proper or the power to enable interoperability at a global scale?
Blockchain has the opportunity that we actually had in the early days of the web to be able to continue to enforce those standards and to keep those standards together so that we can actually have that interoperability. We already see it with respect to stablecoins like USDC, what Circle has put out there, be able to go cross-chain and to create that cross-chain experience so that users can leverage the different opportunities that other chains have. Having that standard language and the ability to have that interoperability creates an opportunity for us to impact in ways that the web sort of failed in terms of the content side because so few actually control so much on the content side of the web. We don't want to see that in payments. We actually want to be able to get to not just the promise, but the actual ability for blockchain to create that openness, that interoperability, and the lack of borders with respect to access to the banking and the financial infrastructure.
Morning, Denelle. The Stellar Development Foundation has invested about $33 million so far this year. What's the underlying theme? Where are you investing? What types of companies? Why? You know, if I have a company, how am I getting your money?
Yeah, so we have really a strong guidepost with respect to the enterprise fund. They have to, the investment has to benefit Stellar and has to create these network effects within the ecosystem. So some of it's going to be more like infrastructure, where you're going to have companies that like Wire who actually offer APIs to their users, their companies that they work with, so that they can actually get to the on and off ramps with respect to the blockchain. Some of them are going to be wallets that are going to offer these kinds of really interesting, unique local services for individuals in certain regions. So really, it's those guideposts about benefiting Stellar and the ecosystem, and then really deeply understanding what Stellar can actually do to help this company, whichever company we're targeting, be able to expand and grow and to create the impact that they wanted to create in the world.
There's been this trend of kind of overseas blockchain projects or companies kind of getting involved in regions like Latin America, and everything ranging from airdrops to other collaborations. But sometimes these don't go that well, right? I mean, like there's definitely been stories of like even these really well-intentioned projects. Once they get on the ground, they sort of misunderstand the regulatory environment, or ordinary people have trouble actually accessing these services. I mean, what are some things that can go wrong when kind of like these overseas foundations try to go in and help these other countries?
Well, it's so important, and I think that this is one of the things that we sort of lose sight of, depending on where you sit, that you actually rely on regional players to be able to help and to be able to assist even the governments. So we're happy to come in and to talk to governments and regulators all over the world, but oftentimes it feels a lot like someone from another country coming in and telling them what to do. When in fact, if you really work through local players and you really understand the problems in that region through that local environment, you're going to actually create a much larger impact. And so I think what you're talking about in terms of the mistakes that have happened, it's because we don't actually remember and respect that we don't actually understand all of the problems that are existing in each region. We might understand our region, and we have to respect the local players to understand what needs that their constituents have and how to really effectuate the change that you want in the local region. So I say this is the whole benefit of open source, and this is the whole benefit of decentralized networks, when you can have this innovation really happening in those regional markets so that you can solve the problems that folks there have versus us trying to decide what those problems are. So I think the same is true with any foundation going in there. Respect the local.
Mm-hmm. Denelle, you talked about financial inclusion at Consensus during your presentation. What are some of the use cases currently on Stellar helping to achieve this?
Well, AirTM is going to be one that actually really helps that last mile and help folks get it on and off off the blockchain and really leverage this as a form of a banking system for them, because they don't always have access to that. I mentioned during Consensus Leaf Global, which is one of my favorite because it's focused on refugees who often have a really hard time getting value across border to their family. So a lot of them are going to be wallet focused. A lot of them are going to be these anchors that are actually they're issuing the assets to be able to help to solve the local problems and to have a local asset that is a digital asset that then you can leverage on Stellar or on blockchains to be able to go through the decentralized exchange and to make these cross-border payments really simple on both sides of it. So again, a lot of it is just about the real local needs that we see in these regions, and to really support those by using Stellar and the power of a global network like Stellar.
So Denelle, what do you expect to get out of AirTM with your investment there? What do you plan on? What's a guidepost, so to speak, for them? What hurdle do they need to overcome here?
Well, I think that for them, they can really rely on the Stellar network and the anchors. Remember, what we're trying to do is create that network effects in the ecosystem so that other players can benefit from new participants coming into the ecosystem. So I think it's going to help AirTM to scale rapidly and to become global, to serve more demand that they see out there. And this global expansion can be leveraged through the anchor network. So you can reduce the costs of compliance for AirTM for expansion into these regions by relying on these financial institutions that already exist in the regions, that are part of the network, that can actually provide that regulatory support and also offer more use cases and more distribution for their assets. So I think it really is that network effect. So what we're going to help to do is get AirTM to get that full transition to the crypto company so that they can actually provide more regulatory clarity for their own investors and for others that want to bring money into them. But also it helps to create that network effect for all of the players that exist on the network. So it really does line up nicely to those guideposts that I talked about, improving Stellar and creating benefits for the ecosystem.